Okay, first of all, I want to thank all our brave Zoomers for braving the snow and coming, putting on your virtual galoshes and plodding through the airwaves in order to come and join us. And also we thank those people here that walked here, okay, and drove. We are sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Nishmas Yaakov Zeb ben Yuda Aryeh, Rivka bas Yaakov Yosef, Tivya Miriam bas Gad, Yosef ben Sion ben Yaakov Zev, the first Shalema for Moshe Aryeh ben Miriam, and for a great shidduch for Chaya Tivya bas Shoshana Gittel. And it's nice to have Baruch Ian finally showing up. He disappointed me. He didn't show up from the Carolinas. I don't know what's the matter with him. He was slumming. But Baruch, it's good to see you now with your Florida tan, and he's sponsoring this Masechta the Nishmas Yaakov Chaim and Abba Esther Bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKohen, Lefu Shalema for Liba Bas Anya. We're sponsored anonymously for Zivik Hagan for Batya Bat Sarah. We're also sponsored anonymously with the tefillah that all those that are waiting children should have children, and for a Zivik Hagan for Ariel Bat El Zarifka and Lior Bat El Zarifka. And we're sponsored also the Refuah Shalema for Yosef Shmuel ben Miriam. We want to learn for Lili Nishmas Yocheved Bas Chaim Tivya. We want to learn Refuah Shalema for Rachamim ben Gloria and Yochai ben Ruchama, and for Moshe Meir ben Esther Fradel, Chavra Adaf Aaron ben Sarah, and Nachman Yaakov ben Sarah. They should have a Refuah Shalema. Ruchama Sarah Bas Miriam. They should have a Refuah Shalema B'Sech Shar Chela Yisrael. We are holding by the Ikeda Amrei. The Ikeda Amrei is 6 lines from the bottom of Daf Vav Amud Beis, 6 lines from the bottom of Daf Vav Amud Beis, and we're saying, what's the Chiddush of Rav? Rav is coming to tell us that when could you, even if a Zor took the Kemitza, when could you return it back into the flour and do it again? V'iked Amrei, please mute yourself. V'iked Amrei. Okay. I guess not. V'iked Amrei. Others say that Rav is saying to the contrary. Kamatz in, it's reversible only if all the non-kain did was take the handful. But kidesh loy. But once he sanctified the handful in a keli, it's too late to reverse it. And that's Kaman, Kahani Tanoi, like the Tanoim we quoted, Rabbi Yossi ben Yossi, and then Rabbi Yehuda Nachtam. Ulafukim et Tanakama, not like the Tanakama. So now the Gemara wonders, Maskevler of Nachman, Micah Sovrei, Hani Tanoi. What do they hold? That they differentiate where he just does the kmitza or where he puts it in the keli. Ikmitzas psulin avodahi. If the kmitza, the handful, is an avodah, then it should disqualify even if he didn't put it in the keli. Afagav the loyava matan keli, it should be disqualified. Ikmitzas psulin lav avodahi. And if the kmitza of a puzzle is not considered an avodah, then ki ovid le matan keli, then when he puts it in the keli, mayavi, why does it all of a sudden become an avodah? So here the Gemara answers very simple. The Gemara answers and says, Hadar Amar Rav Nachman, la'olam avodahi. The Kemitza is an avodah, but it's not concretized as an avodah until you finish it and put it in the keli. Until you then were mekadesh the kmitza in the keli. So if you took the kmitza berish, who's not a kohen, so he could reverse it. But if he concretized it and put it in the keli, then it's too late to reverse. Says the Gemara, then ihachi afilu like kidesh. Even if he didn't put it in keli, as we start the top of Zayin Amud Aleph, but the chimahadele lekaimitz leduchte, what does Berish have to do? He has to put it back in the original keli that's holding the mincha. When he puts it back in that original keli, it should be concretized because he's still putting him in a keli. Tikdash, it should be sanctified v'lipsal. In other words, if you're telling me it gets concretized when you take the kmitza and you put it in a keli, so when you put it in the original keli, you're also concretizing it because you're putting it back in a keli. Oh, says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yochanan Zaysai Meres, this proves Klei Shares ein mekachin ela medas, that a Klei Shares only sanctifies where you have in mind to sanctify it. When Berish realized the mistake and he's putting it back into the original flour, he doesn't have in mind to be mekadesh it. Says the Gemara, but do you mean hamidas mekachin? But if you did it with intent, even though you put it in to its not intended place, it will be mekadesh. V'abai minei Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan klei shareis ma'u sheyikachu psulin lechatchila likarev. If you put something in a klei shareis, but it's done by somebody that's puzzled, let's say a kohen that's a Baal Mum, right? Or a Zar. What's the matter with a Baal Mum?
No,
what?
Then it was the Zar.
I want to give you a little variety to keep you up.
I said it because I had in mind to ask a question, but I was waiting for the half away, so I need to continue. So
says the Gemara, V'abai minei Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan klei sharis ma'u sheyikachu psulin lechatchila likarev. If a Zar put the kmitza into klei sharis, does that make it that you should have to put it on the mizbeach in order to burn it? And here he had the das to do that. V'amalei ein mekachin. So even though he had the das, right, you still see that since it's not supposed to be done, it's not mekadesh. So the Gemara makes a chiddush. We're not talking about being mekadesh that it should be able to go on the mizbeach. We're talking about mekadesh that it should be disqualified. It's two levels. In a chanami, a apostle put something in a klei sharis, that doesn't get it admittance to be put on the pyre of the mizbeach. But if you put it in a klei sharis and you had a mind to be mekadesh it does disqualify. And that's the Gemara's answer. Amalei ein mekachin likarev. It's not mekadesh it that you should be able to put it on the mizbeach. Aval mekachin lipasul, but it is mekadesh it to be disqualified. Rav Amram says, I'll tell you how Berish corrected it. When he realized he made a mistake and he took the kmitza, I'll tell you how Berish could return it back to the original flour and not have a problem that he's putting it in a keli. What does he do? Rav Amram kigain she'achziru levisa gedusha. He puts it into a keli that the flour is heaped. So when he puts it over the rim. so that it doesn't go back in the keli. And that's why it's not mekadosh it. So the Gemara says, but then he has a problem, because now a kohen is going to have to take the kmitza. And if it's over the rim, it doesn't count. So you don't have a full amount. How is he gonna take the kmitza? Because it has to be done. The kmitza has to be done with flour that's inside the vessel. Now you don't have the full amount that's inside the vessel. Says the Gemara, what he does is he returns it to a leveled keli, where the flour is leveled, and
then it's Mikar.
so the shaila is, what's the teretz? If he puts it into then
it's the vessel, not the quantity.
The problem is, where is what Berish put back? If it's inside, it's no good, because then it's mekadosh it, and that concretize it, and it's going to disqualify. Yeah, so that's basically what the Gemara asks. Because if it was level, so then v'keven de kometzle, when Berich took the kmitza of leguma, he made a hole. So kimahadale gavei demana, kimahadale, when he returns it back into that hole, legavei demana kamahadale, he's returning it back inside the keli. So again, it's a problem that he's returning it into a keli. It should concretize then the act of the kmitza and make it disqualified. So here the Gemara says a very interesting thing. Berish doesn't return it into the hole. He doesn't return it into the hole. He lets it sit on the wall of the keli, not inside. Lets it sit on the rim. But it has to get back inside in order for him to do the kmitza. Umeinidle, and then he shakes the keli, v'nafal, and it falls inside, v'nafal memela, and it falls inside by itself. That's as if a monkey put it back in. The nasa kamisher zira akuf. So therefore his kmitza wasn't concretized. See, he gets the best of both worlds. He needs to. He gets the best of both worlds. He needs to return it because he has to have the full amount to take the kmitza. But he can't put it inside because it's going to concretize it. So he puts it on the rim. Then he shakes it. And it falls inside by itself. Since it falls inside by itself, it was like it was done by a monkey. And therefore, it doesn't concretize his act of kmitza.
You're saying the kmitza, you're putting the amount of 3 fingers on the rim of the...
Right. Right.
So how does it just not crumble away?
Because it's sticky now. It has oil. Now...
Wait a second. Don't they put the oil in later?
No, the kmitza, the flour first has oil. It has some oil. They're going to put oil again. Amalei Rab Yirmiyah le Rab Zera. There's another. Why don't we say another answer? Why don't we say that Berish returned it into the keli when the keli was on the floor? And that doesn't count because it only counts if a kohen is holding it. So says the Gemara, "V'lukma k'gain she'ziu lekeli amunach al gabe karka," that he returned it into a keli that was sitting on the floor. Must be that sitting on the floor is okay. And you could be mekadesh the mincha even if it's sitting on the floor. It doesn't have to be held by a kohen. Ela shmami na kaintzin mikeli shal gabe karka. You could take kmitza from a keli that's on the ground. Says the Gemara, you actually, now that you mentioned this, you touched a question. You touched upon a question. Kanogis b'baydi bayilan. You touched a question that was asked to us. De Rabbi Avimi Tani Menachos Bei Rav Chisda. Rabbi Avimi learned Menachos in the yeshiva of Rav Chisda. Now this is a problem, because it makes it sound like Avimi was a student of Rav Chisda, but Avimi wasn't a student of Rav Chisda. To the contrary, Avimi was a rebbe of Rav Chisda's. Yet it says over here that the Rabbi Avimi Tani Menachos Bei Rav Chisda. So first the Gemara asks this parenthetical question: Va'avimi Bei Rav Chisda Tani? Was Avimi a student of Rav Chisda? Va'amar Rav Chisda kulpei tobe bole mi'avime. I got a lot of patch. I got a lot of banging from Avimi about this teaching that I didn't recall. Da Shmaitza, we just learned this in the Mishnah Yomis in Masechtas Harachin, when you have to auction off the property, let's say, of a Yosim. So, you know that we said one of the times we auction off the property of an auction is if he owed money to a guy with ribbis. So we want to stop the ribbis from depleting the orphan's estate. So we have to put it at auction. So ba lahachris ritzufin, if you're going to announce the auction in consecutive days, then lamed yom, it has to be 30 consecutive days. If you're only going to announce the auction on Sheni v'Chamishi, on Mondays and Thursdays, it has to be samach yom, it has to be 60 days. But the bottom line is you see that Rav Chisda got petched from Avimi. So Avimi was his Rebbe, so what's Avimi going and learning in Rav Chisda's yeshiva? Says the Gemara, you know what happened? Avimi mesechta is akerle. Avimi, he forgot Menachos. He forgot it. Rashi doesn't give us why. Maybe it was because of illness, lo yaleinu. Rashi just says, Nishtaka imenu. V'asa kami to Rav Chisda, so he went to Rav Chisda's yeshiva, latkure Gemara, to relearn it. So the Gemara says, well, if he's the Rebbe, he should have sent for Rav Chisda to come to his house to learn with him. V'lishach lei v'leisei legabei. Then why didn't he summon Rav Chisda to come to his house? After all, he's Rav Chisda's Rebbe. So here the Gemara teaches us a big lesson. You want to have siyata d'shmaya? Be humble. Oh, if you're humble, you're going to learn a lot better. Savar, he felt if he treated himself humbly, with humiliation, and he went to learn by his student, Savar hachi mistaya milsa tvei. Now this, by the way, was all parenthetical. But this is a truly great lesson. Humility is not just the treasure of the midas. it says there's a remarkable pasuk. Ekev anava yiras Hashem. Besides humility is fear of God. It's putting humility on the same plane as fear of God. And Taisvis in the 12th parak of Yavamis, Mitzvahs Chalitza, says that we learn a remarkable thing from this pasuk, that shkulinhe, humility and yiras Shemayim are equal. Now that's such an amazing thing, because yiras Hashem is everything. Reishis Chachma yiras Hashem Seif Davar Kol Nishma Esalikim Yiraki Zeh Kol Adam Hein yiras Hashem Hi Chachma Ma Hashem Elekech Shayim Meyimakim Liyira. And yet we see that humility is on that level. The only midah that Moshe Rabbeinu was praised for was he was Anav Ma'id Mikol Adam. I was zeichet to know some truly humble people. You want to meet a humble person? You want to meet a humble person? Try to meet Rav Chaim Mintz, the head of Ura. He's an amazingly humble person. He's really an amazingly humble person. I'll tell you a remarkable story about Rav Chaim Mintz. Remarkable story. He's not a young man now. I think he's close to 90. But I know him. He was my menahel in yeshiva, so I went to yeshiva in 1970. 1970 is already a long time ago.
Wow. Just the other day, right?
Yeah, it's 55 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? So if he's 90 now, so I knew him when he was 45. So Ramosha would when he wanted to show appreciation to someone for doing him a favor, he would give him a sefer, either an Igris Moshe or a Dibris Moshe, and he would inscribe it. One time I'll bring from upstairs. I have a bunch of them that he gave me inscriptions. I have upstairs Igris Moshes, Dibris Moshes. But I used to deliver these svarim to people. That Ramoshi, he told me, please give this. I only saw him write in his, praise, the word Kadosh to two people. One was to a Rabbi Bloom from Russia, and the other was to Rav Mintz. So I told a certain person that Rav Mintz has such a sefer where Moshe wrote that it was a Kaddish, and he really wanted to see it. So I knew where it was in Rav Mintz's house, so I took him there, and I pulled it out, and Rav Mintz had covered over the writing with masking tape.
Wow.
And this person said, you know what, I don't need to see. Anybody that could cover over a Moshe's writing is obviously a Kaddish. But he's a true Anav. I remember quite a few times when he came to our shul, every time he came to our shul, I asked him to sit up front with me.
Right.
He never sat up front. He was a guest I said this over, by Richard Gordon's Levaya. He was a guest by Richard Gordon. He told me I have to sit with my host. But he would never sit up front. He never wore a long coat. So I remember, it's almost a humorous story. I remember that we had an Ura wedding. This was Ura, as you know, is his organization where they take children out of public school and they make them frum. So a boy that he took out of public school and a girl that he took out of public school got married after they became frum, and he was with them all throughout. So he did the wedding, and I was there, and he did the wedding to the point that he did everything. He even called up the kibudim. He did everything. So I remember him telling me, "Would you mind if I don't call you Gain?" This is many, many years ago. So I looked at him and I laughed. I said, "The Rebbe marked my bechinas, my tests. The Rebbe knows that I'm not such a Gain." But he was so humble. It's astounding. Humility is a very rare trait. It's a very rare trait, because in order to grow, we're driven by ego. We're driven by ego, and to have the tightrope of to have the proper drive, but still to feel truly humble, is an incredibly hard thing. So, but we're learning from this Gemara that not only is it a coveted trait, but that when you do something humbly, it will give you siyata d'shmaya what you're learning. So anyway, let's get back to Menachos. So Avimi went to learn Menachos in the yeshiva of his student Rav Chisda. So says the Gemara, Pagabei Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman met him. Amalei Ketzad Kamtzen. How do you do kmitza? Amalei Mikeli Zeh. Now there was a utensil on the floor. So he says you could do it from this keli. Amalei V'chi Kamtzen Mikeli Shel Gabe Karka. Can you do it from off the ground? Amalei, he said, no, the migvalei kain. No, I mean that it's being held by a kain. Ketzad mekachin es menachos. Now we know the next step after taking the kmitza is then you have to take the kmitza in klei sharis. Amalei noisna leklei zeh. Put it into this keli. So the Gemara says, you mean on the floor? So he says, yeah, the migvalei kayin. I mean that a kayin is holding it. Amalei, so he said, im kain hutzrachto gimel kahanim. In the procedure, you need 3 kahanim. You need a kayin to hold the keli when a second kayin takes the kmitza from it. And then you need a third kayin to hold another empty keli when he puts the kmitza in to be mekadesh. Now the Rishonim say you really don't need 3, because the one that was holding the first keli could put that down and then hold the second keli. But the idea is that you need 3 steps over here. A kayin has to hold the keli that's full, another kayin has to take a kmitza, and then another kayin has to hold the keli that he puts the kmitza in to be mekadesh it. Amalei, so he says, that's okay. What's so much that you have to do 3? In the Talmud, you need 13 kahanim to do the Talmud Shel Shacha. Amalei will say, Svicha, Yud Gimel Ketamid, and maybe you need 13 like the Talmud. In other words, why should it trouble me that you need 3 kahanim? So Eisvei, Zeh HaKlal, Kol HaKoymetz, anyone that does the kmitza, or v'noisim b'keli, remember, these are the avodas, where if you have a machshava that's puzzle, you disqualify. Zeh HaKlal, Kol HaKoymetz, or v'noisim b'keli, or hamoilech, one who brings it to the southwest corner, v'amaktir, or he smokes it up, having in mind lechel davar shedarka lechel, to eat something that's normally eaten after its time, or smoke it up after its time, it becomes pigel. But according to you, there's another avodah, picking up the keli, v'ilu magvia like ketani. Says the Gemara, well, Tana Seder Avodas Nakat. The Tana counted what are avodos. Avodos are procedures. In other words, the procedure is kmitza, kiddush bekeli, halacha. It happens to be that in order to do the kmitza correctly, the keli has to be held by a kohen, but that's not an avodah. V'lo seder kahanim. It doesn't say the number of kahanim. You're right, but that's also that's also necessary. Bo minei Rav Sheshes. So now this question was asked from Rav Sheshes. Mao likmaitz mikeli shal gabe karka. Can you take kmitza from a keli that's on the ground? Amalei, so he said, I'll prove it to you that you could do it from the ground. Because go and see what's done inside the Beis Hamikdash itself. Poik chazi mai ovdin legav. Go and see what they do inside the Beis Hamikdash itself. Arba kahanim nichnasim sham. 4 kahanim first enter. This is talking about when they switch on Shabbos, and they bring the new set of lechem upon him, and they take away the old set of the 12 loaves. So first, Arba kahanim nichnasim. 4 kahanim come in. Shnayim biyodim beis sedarim. 2 of them are holding the 2 rows of 6 challahs. Right? Each kohen is holding 6 challahs. V'shnayim biyodim shnei bazichen, and 2 of them are holding the 2 spoonfuls of levona. V'arba makdimun lefneim, 4 go in ahead of them. Shnayim litol shnei sedarim, 2 to remove the 12 challahs from the shulchan, last week's challahs, or beis litol beis bazichen. But it doesn't say that you need a kohen to pick up the shulchan from the ground. So obviously you could take it even though it's on the ground. V'ilu, says the Gemara, v'ilu magvia es ha-shulchan, to lift up the shulchan like a tani. Says the Gemara, well, lav omrit hasam seder avodas nakat. Didn't we say that we talk about prominent avodas? Hachanami seder avodas nakat. But it could be that maybe they did have a kohen that lifted it off the ground, but that's not a prominent action. The prominent action is holding the loaves, holding the sensifuls. So the Gemara says, the Gemara says, don't give me that. Don't give me that answer. Me dummy. What's the comparison? Hasam loy nachas l'minyana. Over there, it didn't say a number of kahanim. Loy nachas l'minyana kahanim. Hacha, it says nachas l'minyana kahanim. It says 4. And if there's also needed 1 to pick it up, im isa lisnei magvia, ela shma mina, it must be kaimtzin mikeli shal gabe karka, that you could take kmitza from a keli that's on the ground. Shma mina. Yes, Gedalia.
A table is elevated. When you put something on a table, it's not a bizayon. If you have a keli that's on the ground, it's a bizayon.
The chiluk came to my mind as well, and the Gemara now tells you that it's not true. The floor in the Beis Hamikdash is itself a klei sharis. That's not a bizayon. So it's a klei sharis that's sitting on a klei sharis. That's not a bizayon.
Well, Rabbi,
Well, no, we're saying that we see that it doesn't. That's what the Gemara is saying. We see from here that it doesn't have to be lifted.
And the normal, when you do the kmitza, when it goes in that clay sharis at the end, then the Kohen pours it from the clay sharis directly onto the mizbeach?
Correct.
So he doesn't touch it again with his hand?
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's high time that I welcome the tremendous crowd that we have over here. Yaakov Warman, Yehuda Solomon, Irving Fishbaum, Michal Akta. Isn't it an amazing thing that when there's snow on the ground that makes it a little bit unsafe, you could still come to the shir from the safety of your living room? It's really amazing. Saba Barachian, who finally decided to check in. Took you so long to get to Florida? Whoa. Dr. Guy, Baruch Hashem, you're there safely. Now, Zafter, Shimon Klein, Shalom Fogel, the one and only Eddie Chazan, Barry Cement, who we had on today's daf, Midami, Yisrael Fisher, A.B. Spry, Dr. Black, Menachem Umansky, Nachman Chapler, Mark Frankel, Chaim Lerner, Mo Kushner, Dr. Eisenberg, it's about time, Gabriel Epstein, Gedalia Engel, Shelley Zeitlin, Yitzi Fuchs, Rabbi Kranz, Stephen Holtzman, Avram Rezepkwitz, Naftali Jablin, Yitzi Muller, Ilya Shutman, Moshe Lehman, Daniel Rosenberg, and Avi Ament, a cool 35 Zoomers, pretty nice. And here in the shul, even though the weather is not nice at all, we have a beautiful Olam, Berish Gesemin, Chaim, Michal Avram, Iran, Danny, Reuven Shanit, and the one who came and braved the snow, Rebellia Yafi. Rebellia was like Kriyas Yamsuf you crossed over here. Now, I'm making fun. I just came down the stairs. I don't even know if it's snowing outside. I'm making fun of people. Now, Amarava, Pshitali Kaimitz Miklish al Gabe Karka. It's obvious to me that you could take the kmitza from a keli that's on the ground, Shekei Matzinu B'zilik Bazichen, because we remove the sensifles of Levina from the shulchan, which is tantamount to the kmitza. Mikachin Mincha B'klish al Gabe Karka. It's also pashut to me that you could put it the kmitza into a keli that's on the ground, Shekei Matzinu B'sida Bazichen, that we arrange the bazichen of the frankincense on the shulchan. But by Rava, Kiddush Kaimitz Mai. B'kachin Mincha means being Mekadesh the entire Mincha. That means when you put the fully Saran in a keli, that's pashut to me that it can be done when it's on the ground. Shekei Matzinu B'sida Bazichen, you put the sensible on the shulchan. By Rava Kiddush Kaimitz Mai. But what about the second step? After taking the kmitza, putting it now into a second clay sharis, can that be on the ground? Do we say Memincha Yalfin Allah? We learn it out from the original mincha. The original mincha we're allowed to put into the keli that's on the ground. So the kmitza, we could also put it on the keli that's on the ground. Or do we learn it out from catching the blood of a carbon, that it has to be done when the kohen is holding it? Hader pashta midam yalfinama. We learn it out from blood, just like when you catch the blood, the kohen has to be holding the keli. So also when you mekadesh the kmitza in a keli, you have to be holding the keli. Says the Gemara, Umi Amar Ravahachi, Vayitmar Kaimitz Shecholtu B'Shnei Kalim, the kmitza that was divided in two separate kalim. Rav Nachman Amar Einoi Kaddish. Rav Nachman says it's not Kaddish if it's divided in two separate kalim. V'Rava Amar Kaddish. And Rava says that even though you put it in two separate kalim, it's good. But if we say that we learn out from dam, in a case where you need, now most of the cases by animals, a zrika achas is enough. But there are cases like the par and the sar of Yom Kippur, where you need to do all 43 placements. Over there, if you catch it in separate kalim, it's no good. So if Rava learns out from dam, then how could it be that if you could put the kmitza in two different kalim, it's okay? Ve'mi'isa leilaf medam. So the Gemara says, you're right. Hader be Rava me'ahi. Rava retracted from that, and he taka holds like Rav Nachman that if you put it in two separate kalim, it's no good. So the Gemara says, how do we know that if you catch the blood in two separate kalim, where you need all of the zrikas? See, if you catch blood in two separate kalim and one zrika is enough, zrika achas, so then it's okay, because you have enough in one of the kalim. But like the dam of the par or the sar of Yom Kippur, you have to make a lot of different placements. You have to do it in the Kodesh Kedoshim. You have to do it against the Paraikas. You have to do it on the Mizbeach Hazav. So how do we know that you cannot catch it in two separate kalim? How do we know that? V'dam minalan deloy kadosh l'chatzah. Blood, how do we know that it's not sanctified in halves? Says the Gemara, the Tani Rav Tachlifa ben Shaul, P'kideish pachas mikdei azah b'klizeh. Now here we switch to the paraduma. And we know that we have to mix the water with ash, and it has to be enough to dip the hyssop in. Right? So kidesh pachas mikdei azah b'klizeh, if you are mekadesh less than what's needed for the sprinkling in one keli, or pachas mikdei azah b'klizeh, and then you want to use it like kiddush, it's no good. And the Gemara says, "V'baylu, what would be the din? Bedam, bedamai. What would be the din if, let's say, the blood of the sar of Yom Kippur, the blood of the par, you caught it in two separate kelim? Do we say hilchasahi? Do we say that which it says by the paraduma is halach l'moshe misinai? Or mehilchasa lo yalfina? We don't learn out from halach l'moshe misinai. It's specific to its unique case. Aidil mahasa my taima, and this is really, sometimes when the Balkara makes a mistake, when the Balkara makes a mistake, sometimes we don't know, do we have to say it over again? Right? There's some mistakes. Say at the end of the pasuk, instead of usually at the end of this pasuk, there's a comment. He says the word with a patach at the end of the pasuk. That's not a mistake that we do over. But it says dichsiv v'toval b'mayim. He should dip in the water. Now it should have said v'toval b'mayim, in water with a shva. B'mayim is in the water mentioned before, which means that you have to dip in the full amount of water that was collected. It can't be in two separate kalim. So hachanami haksiv v'taval badam, in the full amount of blood. V'emar taka amar Rav Zrika amar Rav Elazar af bedam loy kidesh. If you caught the blood in two separate kalim, it's no good. Amar Rava Tanya nami hachi. We learned likewise. V'taval, you dip your finger in the blood. V'loy misafik, you can't sponge your finger on the side of the keli. Badam, sheyehei badam shir tefila meikara. You need to have the amount of the blood from the beginning. You can't have it in two separate kalim. Min adam means min adam sheba inyan. It means the blood that's mentioned beforehand. Now what that means, the Gemara is going to explain shortly. And the Gemara now takes apart the whole thing. V'itzrich lemichta v'taval, it has to say you dip it. V'itzrich lemichta badam, in the blood that was collected. You can't have it in two separate kalim. It needs to be the original blood that was collected. Dikas rachman v'taval hava mina afal gav d'loi kibul shir tfilas meikarai. It could be that you didn't catch the original amount originally. Could be in a separate keli. Because around badam, in the original blood. You could even sponge it from the wall. Now, what does it mean? It means that you have to do each sprinkling from the keli. You can't sprinkle once with your finger, and if you have left on the finger, sprinkle again from that finger. Each time you have to dip it in the keli. The blood that's mentioned before, each time, you can't use the remnants on your finger. This is a proof to Rabbi Elazar. The Amar Shirayim Shebe'etzba Psulim. Once you sprinkle whatever's left on that finger, it's no good anymore.
You need a fresh dip.
Well, you need a fresh dip. We'll see that you clean your finger on the edge of the rim of the keli. Amalei Ravin Baravada Rava. Amrei Talmidach, your disciple or your disciples said in the name of Amram, Tanya, Hayamazeh, if the Kayin was sprinkling Nitza Hazah Miyadai, and some of the blood sprayed from his hand, Im Ad Shaloi Hiza, if he didn't finish yet, and some of the blood sprayed on the Kayin's garment, Toin Kibbutz. You have to wash the garment. It needs a special wash with the 7 detergents. Mishehiza, but once he sprayed, ain't Toin Kibbutz. Now, doesn't that mean that if it went on his beged, even after he did the first one, but if he didn't finish the whole thing, and it gets on the beged, you have to wash it. So you see that the blood is still good, and will necessitate washing. My love actually gomar haza asay, until you complete the full amount of sprinklings. And umishagamar haza asay, then you don't need to wash it. So shmami no d'shirayim shebe'etz kasherim. You see what's left on the finger is good. Says, well, no, that's not what it means. Like, actually yatsa miyadei haza, until he does the first sprinkling, if it gets on the baguette, it needs to be washed. Ton kibbutz. If after he sprinkled once, then v'nitza, then it got on the baguette, then it doesn't need. Because once you sprinkle once, what's left is disqualified. You can't use that anymore, and therefore you wouldn't need washing. Now we go back to the paraduma. Gama malahazas, they sprinkled 7 times towards the oil mayed. Gama malahazais, when he finishes sprinkling, mekanech yadai begufa shel para. He wipes his hand on the body of the cow. So that implies gamarin only when he finishes, loy gamalai, but not when he doesn't finish. So that means he could do all 7 with the blood that's on his hand. Amalei, no. Gama, when he finishes, mikaneach yadai, he wipes his whole hand on the body because the blood that's there needs to be burnt, and it's burnt together with the cow. Lo gama, if he didn't finish, mikaneach etzbai, he just wipes his finger. Now, Mefarshim say, they don't say it over here, but Mefarshim say he doesn't wipe his finger on the cow because he might get a hair from the cow, and then that would cause a problem when he sprinkles. Says the Gemara, Bishlai megamar mekaneach yada begufa shel para. He cleans it on the body of the cow because the blood needs to be burned together with the cow. We burned the cow, and the blood will be burnt with the cow. But when he doesn't finish, he wipes his finger. Where is he going to wipe his finger? Where is he going to wipe his finger? He can't do it on the cow because he's going to get a hair. But my mekaneach says the Gemara, Amar Abaye b'sfas mizra. He wipes it on the edge of the bowl. Dichsiv kiforei zahav, bowls of gold. Now, why are they called kiforei? Because what does the word kfar mean? Think about it. What does Yom Kippur mean? Yom Kippur means a day of cleansing. So it's called kiforei zahav because it cleanses his finger. There's always an etymology. It cleanses his finger from the blood. I'm really, really, really very appreciative that we have so many people here. I imagine Marshall is not here because he's probably deep in the snow. But a shout out to him. Maybe he's listening to it. Also a shout out to Philippe, who gave some money towards the shir today and is listening in Eretz Yisrael. We also, I'm talking to my huge audience on Torah Anytime YouTube, Kolaloshin. We're looking for a sponsor for Parshas Bay. We don't have one yet. 718-916-3100. rmmwsi@aol.com. Thank you everybody for joining us, and have a wonderful Chodesh, a guten Chodesh.